Hello everyone. Welcome to Coffee, Love, and Books. My name is Michelle, and today I'm going to be talking about my favorite classics that I read in 2020. So, a little bit of an anecdote. In 2019, at the end of my freshman year, I read the Twilight series, just kind of testing it out, see if it was any good. If you want, I can talk more about Twilight later, but in book 3, there's a lot of mention of the book Wuthering Heights. I was like, oh, that seems cool. I've been wanting to read classics. So I read Wuthering Heights, or I started reading Wuthering Heights that summer, took a break for the fall, and then finished in January. So that was kind of my first classic that I had ever read on my own outside of school. And I kind of decided that this school year was going to be dedicated to reading classics. I wasn't as big on reading at that time. I didn't have time to read as much. And oh my goodness, just choosing a classic and working through it slowly each night, reading a few pages, was just working through each classic slowly and at a time was a really helpful way for me to start. And I really am glad that I devoted that time to it. And obviously when the virus started, I was reading a lot more different books because I had so much more time. But just devoting that time to like 2 or 3 classics was really helpful for my reading journey. And I really enjoyed it. So I'm really excited to talk to you about all these wonderful books that I read this year. I love them. And I mean, this isn't all of them, but it's the ones that I really liked the most. So, without further ado, let's just jump right into the first one, which isn't here, Wuthering Heights. So, Wuthering Heights was a little bit hard for me. I know it's hard for a lot of people, and a lot of people don't like it, but it's a really very exciting, gothic feeling, kind of horrifying, creepy story. Just about the cycle of abuse and about hurt people hurting more people. And it really is an amazing story, shocking and just so exciting and so heartbreaking and sad, and oh my goodness, it is a well done, well written, amazing story. And it probably shouldn't have been the first classic that I picked up, but for the first classic that I picked up on my own, it was engaging enough to keep me going. So I am really glad that I read it. It drags a little at places, but otherwise I really enjoyed it, and I'm so glad that it was one of the first that I read. Alrighty, and the next one, Pride and Prejudice, my love. I am so on the fence as to whether I read this last year or this year, but I'm going to talk about it now anyway. Pride and Prejudice is, I think, the second classic I picked up, and I knew I would like it. I'd seen the play at my brother's, well, my school, but when my brother, you know, I had seen the play, and it was really good. It was the first exposure I'd had to the story, and I enjoyed it, and I knew I would really like the book. And I also watched Becoming Jane, which is a movie about Jane Austen, and I really knew I would like this story. So I picked it up, and the first line, which is so classic and amazing: "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of good fortune must be in want of a wife." I knew I would love the book from there. Yes, Pride and Prejudice is a little bit hard. Jane Austen is so hard to read at times, especially if you like this little thing called a plot. Her plots, while they are there, drag a little bit. In fact, I would say that Pride and Prejudice is one of the more upbeat, fast-paced books of hers, and I really loved this book. But oh my goodness, there was okay, so I was in like the last 100 pages and so frustrated, and the ending made me so excited. I was running around my house for like 20 minutes screaming, so excited. I could not believe that I mean, I could believe it. I knew it was coming, but this ending made me so unbelievably excited. And just how Jane Austen examines her society and how much she critiques it and also like jokes about it. And I love the characters in here. I love Elizabeth. She is so strong and amazing and smart and at the same time so flawed. And I love her. I love her family. This is such a warm, cozy book that I am really excited to reread. It's just so classic. Every time I watch another adaptation of the story or I'll reread passages from this book, I just fall more deeply in love with it because I just cannot get enough of how amazing and incredible this book is. And it is my favorite book of all time. That might change, I don't know, but I had never been so excited to read anything in my entire life when I read this ending. And I love this book so much, and it's really what solidified that love for classics for me, and it's amazing. Alrighty, so the next book I'm going to talk about is, I'm going to keep this kind of brief because I've definitely discussed The Lord of the Rings a lot on this channel. This is actually the Silmarillion. It's the only presentable copy of Tolkien's works that we have in this house, so it's a stand-in. The Lord of the Rings is such an amazing series that can be very hard to read at times, but overall is amazing. I just can't even with some of the moments in these books. I love them all so much. Tolkien's exploration of manhood and just good overcoming evil, rather evil overcoming itself, and the small acts of kindness. The more I look into this series, the more I am in love with it. Just all the themes and just how amazing it is. And oh my goodness, Tolkien's a genius. His world is so immersive, so beautiful, so rich. His characters, I know I've already mentioned this. Sam is so amazing. He's just like, him being him just makes me cry. I love him, and I love his loyalty, and I love his goodness, and how he doesn't want to be the hero. He just wants to be there and kind, and I just love him. I love his ending, and Return of the King was so crazy amazing, and I am in love with this series. And yes, it's hard to read. It's true. I'm not going to deny it. The song breaks are kind of rough, but oh my goodness, this series is just so genius, and I love it. And Tolkien's a genius. Alright, the next one is Tale of Two Cities. I read Tale of Two Cities in school, and it took me a few months because we started it before you know what came and shut schools, and we ended it after we got back to school. And this book was horrible at first. I didn't understand a thing that was happening, and I normally enjoy and understand classics pretty well, but this one was so hard. It was a trudge, I will admit it, but its ending just shot it right back up into one of the most incredible things I've read. And not every little word was necessary to come to the amazingly satisfying ending that Dickens pulled off in this book, but oh my word, yeah, just how he ties it all together in the end. Dickens creates these little motifs and how it just all comes together in this last scene, which is so incredible. One of the best last scenes I've read in all my life, and they made me cry. And that's not rare here, but it did. And I love these characters. I love how pure and amazing some of them are, and how normally you don't love, they're not caricatures, but they're just very all kind of one thing. But I really like how that ended up working out, and oh my goodness. The ending is so wonderful. You're gonna have to read it to find out, but I just am in love with this story, and I think it is worth devoting your time to reading, and Dickens is so smart and amazing, and it's really, really good. Alright, the next one I have is Peter Pan, which I think I read shortly after reading Pride and Prejudice. This is much easier to read than most classics, so if you need a little bridge into the classics world, I would totally suggest Peter Pan. This book means a lot, and while it doesn't tug on my heartstrings as much as some of the others, I really appreciate this book. It was so fun to read, and Peter is a little old brat, and Wendy is like this sweet, classic little girl type character, and I just think the way this book portrays children is really kind of on point, and its exploration of friendship, parenthood, adoption is so beautiful, so well done, and I just really think this book is worth reading, and I really do adore it, and it's so easy to read and short, and I would totally suggest you pick it up. And just, wow. I did really, really enjoy this book. So next we have The Great Gatsby, which is one of the more recent books I've read. I really appreciated this book, number one, because it was set in the 20s, and number two, just its exploration of class and morality through the character of Gatsby and through the character of Nick. It just is really detailed and good at explaining like certain emotions and feelings. Like when it's describing the feeling of like intoxication and confusion and just all the worldly pleasures being thrown at you, it can make you feel that. And I think that's really incredible. The commentary on society is wonderful and on point. And I just really think it hits the mark where it means to, and its exploration is wonderful, and I love this book. You'll probably have to read it in school if you haven't already, but I think it is really great to have to read it if you're gonna have to read any classic. And the last one, just because it was the biggest book on the pile and I didn't want to have to be an engineer, is Sense and Sensibility, which is in this volume thing. So, wow. So, as far as my Jane Austens go, Sense and Sensibility is second only to Pride and Prejudice. I really loved this book. It has this classic Jane Austen-y, frustratingly dragging plots that make it kind of hard to read at times, but oh my goodness, when Jane Austen starts her twisty turny plot and her just amazing character arcs and commentary on society, she really goes for it. And there is a scene in Sense and Sensibility that is one of my favorite scenes in all of literature. I would love to make a video just about that scene because I cannot get enough of how amazing it is at exploring the two characters it deals with, and just, I love Sense and Sensibility. Eleanor's an angel. Marianne is kind of a lovable brat, but also so dreamy, not dreamy, so whimsical and so full of life that you just have to love her. And I love its exploration of family, and oh my goodness, it is such a good book. Really Jane Austen at her best, and I really, really treasure it. Alright, so that is, this is a bad pile, that is basically all the classics that I loved this year. I mean, I loved others, but these were like the bestest ever. So thank you so much for watching. These are amazing, and if you read any of them, or if you want to read any of them, let me know in the comments. I would love to chat. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next Saturday. Bye!